Thanks for joining us today on Polk Salad.
We've started the season and had 2 great shows.
Great idea. That's smart.
And we've just settled in quite nicely.
Greetings. Welcome to Polk Salad. It's February, spring's a-comin', and we have 3 wonderful guests today. And I know you're going to enjoy seeing them and hearing from them just as much as I did. And we're here now with Vickie McCubbin. Vickie is at the Heritage Museum in Independence. She sits on 2 boards, the Society and also the Advisory Council. Welcome, Vickie.
Well, thank you. It's great fun to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
I'm glad to see you. Thank you. We have fresh blood here. You're here. You've been here about 3 years after retiring, but this isn't your first experience.
No, it isn't. I came to Monmouth back when Western was OCE and graduated from there. In fact, in the year of transition when it was going from OCE to Western Oregon State College. And we just loved the area and wanted to come back in retirement. So here we are.
What did you decide to put on your diploma? You were given the option.
I had OCE. I
Did
had
you?
a fondness for that.
Yeah, I can understand that. Yeah. But this wasn't your first school. When we spoke before, you said you had gone to the colleges of the Northwest.
Yes.
Where did you start and end?
I started in Seattle at Seattle Pacific, and I was there for 2.5 years. And then because of some family circumstances, was back home again and going part-time and working at the University of Alaska, but then had the opportunity to come down to Oregon and finish. I'd heard such wonderful things about OCE for their teacher prep program, and then I had a connection to it through the School for the Deaf, too.
Yeah. Now, in your professional life, after, when you finished, you didn't use it quite as much.
No,
right?
I had hoped to. The original plan was to come here, get my undergrad degree here, and then get my master's in deaf ed. But we ended up going back to Alaska, so the tables turned a little bit. And so then I went to Alaska Pacific University. So when people ask, that's the College of the Northwest.
You made the circuit pretty much. When you were here some years ago, you were one of the few people who lived in Valsetz for a while. I think of Valsetz as kind of a Brigadoon. Because it's disappeared, there is no more.
There's no, it's just virtually gone. The school where I taught, they packed up, they sold to a private school somewhere, I think in Salem, and piece by piece brought it down over the hill. Over the hill was a new term for me. Kids would say, I didn't get my homework done because we had to go over the hill. Because when you go up to Valsetz, you go up in the Cascades, and then you slightly go down the other side. So that was a euphemism for going to town, going over the hill.
Oh, how interesting. So you have lived in kind of rural circumstances. At one time you were in a log cabin, didn't your dad?
Well, my dad, my dad,
Okay.
when they came to Alaska in the 40s, cleared out land, built a little log cabin, and I didn't have the privilege of living in the log cabin. By the time I came along, he had started a house, so we were in the beginnings of the house, which as kids came along, it got added to.
Yeah.
But my older sister and my parents lived, but we that was our playhouse. We played in the cabin for years.
Oh, neat. So you're about to go to the library and do Laura Ingalls Wilder.
I am this afternoon. I'm excited about that.
You can be Laura Ingalls Wilder.
Yeah. My grandparents homesteaded in the South Dakota area around the same time they were there in the book that she wrote, The Long Winter.
Oh.
And so I've always been fascinated with the book.
Yeah.
So one year I rounded up a sibling. My sister and I went to the Little House on the Prairie locations. We went to DeSmet, South Dakota, Pepin, Wisconsin, and of course the location in Minnesota, which most of the TV show is based on. Walnut Grove.
Pepin is where we lived in Wisconsin for 20 years, and both of my daughters were very much into Laura Ingalls Wilder.
I bet they were.
So they would take little field trips over that way.
Wonderful.
Yeah, it is pretty cool. It's a good experience to see where we've come from. So tell me what got you involved in the Heritage Museum.
Okay, speaking of where we came from,
Yes.
I've had a passion for a number of years for genealogy. And so I was taking last year, year before last, an online class from Boston University, and one of our assignments was to go for our genealogical research, to go to a location with archives. And I thought, well, why not start locally? So Peggy Smith, the curator of the museum, introduced me to the archives in the basement of the museum. And
You got very involved that way.
I did. I found a letter from a gentleman who had come down, settled in McMinnville, but his great-granddaughter, I believe it is, lives in Monmouth, and she had donated the letters. And so I just...
He was from the Oregon Trail, came over in that first group?
Yes, came over in the Oregon Trail.
Yeah.
And his letters were in hopes that his family would come out. Sadly, he went back to get them and died on the trail. But I remember as a kid, learning about the Oregon Trail, and I've always been fascinated by it, and got to know Peggy Smith and her assistant Shannon, and just kind of kept coming back. And there was an opening on the society board, and our president, Kathy Pomeroy, whose family has been in this area for a long time, and in fact she has, I think, a great-grandparent who came over on the Oregon Trail. She's got wonderful stories.
I'll bet.
Yes, and so she has such great energy of wanting to make the museum kind of a collecting point in the community. So we're really working to involve school more. And
I know we expect to see fourth graders, because that's always been the state when you learn state history. But who are you seeing now?
We're seeing second graders and third graders coming over too, with some of the new Oregon state teaching standards. We had a little booth at the farmers market last summer, and I was sitting there, and one of the teachers I had met before, who also has a booth, came over, and she's looking, and she said, "I'll be right back." She came back and she said, "I just booked our first field trip." I said, "Oh, did you switch to fourth grade?" She said, "Nope, still second, but we're including second graders this year." And she was explaining with the standards. So I went home, downloaded standard. I got to get my teacher fix in there. And was able to coordinate the standards with her museum tour and give her a little handout of these are the things, objectives that we covered. And then later some third graders came in. And then this spring we're expecting the fourth graders. So we want to expand that and develop more curriculum for the teachers at all the grade levels. And we want to try to get some high school kids into it.
Oh, sure, absolutely. What is the favorite exhibit for the little ones, the younger crowd?
Oh, well, naturally they love the hands-on things. There's a buffalo robe they get to touch, and there's a saddle on a sawhorse, and it says, "Ride me to the next community." So they love getting on that. And there's a bell in the hops area. They get to ring the bell. They love ringing the bell, of course. And that's one of our goals, too. We'd like to be able to expand the space and have more interactive things for the kids to do, because we learn so much more by doing. So,
and you had said that they're hoping to get an annex. Is that that's
a
for larger things?
For larger things, we have one of the wagons, not from the original Oregon Trail, but in 1959 they have a cavalcade from Independence, Missouri that reenacted. And so that's in there, and a surrey and some large things. We'd like to move those into an annex, and then have an interactive corner like you see in a lot of children's museums where they can really have more of an experience of the museum
I
beyond
love that idea.
what we have now. So we're really excited. So in that board we're working on on some of those kinds of things to try to come up with some fundraising
Yeah.
ideas and to be an advocate to get the word out to the community that
Excellent.
we're there and we welcome you.
Yeah, yeah. So you're hoping to get more members in, and expand the vision. You had even mentioned that your group, your advisory council, is thinking of expanding into Monmouth and
Well,
something
we would like
that.
we would like to get the folks in Monmouth in over and know that we're here and that we want to be inclusive. We know
Sure.
that Monmouth has the heritage from the university, but my gosh, we're such
Sure.
a wonderful area, and I know there's other
Right.
folks that have done so much to try to connect the two communities. So that would be a wonderful
Yeah.
way to do that as well.
Good, good. That sounds wonderful. Well, I know we have so much that I love in the area, and I'm sure this is another thing that's going to be so popular. It was your Heritage Museum is working on there are a few things. So you've got a hops
Yes.
heritage. It was like what is the saying? Like the
It was a hops capital
hops
of the
capital.
yes, hops capital. Hops capital, yeah. Say
So
that fast.
you have
We have a
that.
display. One of the wonderful interns from Western has enlarged the display that's there. And if you
Yeah.
come into the museum in the entryway up in it's an old church if you haven't been to
Yeah.
the museum. And in the hallways there, she's got some wonderful panels to add to the panels that are there. A hops barrel that has some of the dried hops so you can see them. And
Do you have the gloves? As the story goes, when we took a tour at Rogue Hop Farm, that you have to wear certain gloves because it's a family in the family that the thistles are in. So it's like kind of Velcro-y, or prickly. Yeah, yeah.
I'm not sure. I will have to make that my next goal to find out if we have
This is one
gloves.
of those things that I think I remember little details, and I commit them to memory. And every once in a while, a good portion of the time, I remember wrong. So it may not be hops, but
No, that sounds
But there could
very,
be-
very, because I made one of that for my first year here, I made a scarecrow for the hops and Heritage Festival, and I wanted to incorporate hops into her hat. And I had hops everywhere in the I kind of had a trail of them because as they dried, they kind of
they fall off.
yeah,
Okay,
everywhere.
good. Let's see. I was going to ask you, I'm looking at your husband. You've been married for about the same time I have.
Yes.
And you live in the air park.
Air park.
So does your hangar have an airplane or what?
My hangar does not have an airplane. My hangar has 3 vintage cars, 2 lathes, a milling machine, 3 welders. It's full, but not with an airplane.
Yeah.
My dad, his first trip to Alaska, he drove a 1928 Chevrolet up. And as a wedding present 41 years ago, he gave it to my husband and said, put his arm around him and said, would you like a project?
And
Chevrolet
is it restored?
It is restored now.
Cool.
It was tied together with a rope, and when you untied the rope, it kind of fell apart. Old Chevrolets had wood construction bodies, and the wood had
Really?
rotted out. But when he first came up, that was the family car. And,
Wow.
Yeah, and then when my dad passed, we inherited a 1930 Chevrolet, and then along the way, we also picked up a 1934 Chevrolet. Now the 28 is running. The 30 had some engine problems. He's had all that apart. It's now going back together, and the 34 is a work in progress. So.
Oh, wow.
He always has
So
something
stays
to work
busy.
on.
Yeah. Do you go on the trips, where you see all the old cars going down the highway?
We
and-
have gone on some of those. We went from
looks like fun.
Alaska to one in West Yellowstone,
Oh,
and that was an
my.
adventure. We did ferry it over the highway, but
Yeah.
then we drove from Bellingham
Oh.
the rest of the way
Oh,
over.
good.
And it was
Slow going.
Yeah, but it was a great adventure.
Good.
We made a trip on a motorcycle too, so at least we had some enclosures.
That sounds like fun. That sounds great. Well, you're a great addition to the community. You've given it new life and a new focus for the Heritage Museum. I'm so glad to have you come visit us
Well,
today.
thank you so much. I'm glad to be able to talk about the museum. I've become quite passionate about it. And,
Good.
And
yeah.
It's a
and that's
fun
what we
place to be.
like. It's a terrific place for that.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you. We'll be right back. We're here with Ryan Kingsella. He's the new executive director at the Monmouth-Independence Chamber of Commerce. Welcome, Ryan.
Thank you for having me.
Well, thanks for coming on. You're going to be so familiar with this place because you record Chamber Chat
We do.
in this very spot. So, tell me what brought you to this neck of the woods.
A long journey, that's for sure. Originally, Western Oregon was the reason that I decided to settle in Monmouth and Independence. I was going to go to school to be a early childhood education teacher, and as you know, Western is pretty well
Very
known
good.
for that.
Good. Well, I was going to ask you how many moves you've made. You've come from a military family, so you've traveled internationally.
All over the place.
And you choose our little town, our little area that's wonderful. So did we. But tell me, if you can, how many moves do you think you've made?
Over my entire
Your
life.
life.
Oh, wow. I would say probably 8 cross-country moves. Of course, I used to live in Italy when I was a young child.
Yeah.
And then, interstate moves. So.
Interstate. So you keep a bag by the door ready to go, but not anymore.
Not anymore.
No,
Not
you're
anymore.
staying put.
Yes. Yeah.
Good.
Absolutely.
And we were just talking before the filming started, and you've had a number of jobs. Would you kind of give me a clue as to what they've been?
Yeah, sure. I think I was lucky in a lot of ways because I started my professional career before attending college. And I was actually, I worked my way up to the assistant buyer of consumer electronics at the Walmart home office in Bentonville. And I was the youngest in that
and got
role.
a nice award.
I did. I was actually awarded the Merchandising Excellence Award from the vice president of Walmart. So that was a pretty big deal. So that was a great experience.
Yeah, and you've had some experience here in a filming capacity, not here, but in a studio.
With cameras and studios, yeah. So I actually worked, I was a production assistant or morning floor director for KFSM Channel 5 News in Fayetteville, Arkansas. So worked on the studios and the scripts and with the anchors, and yeah, it was an incredible experience too.
So it doesn't sound like you did lawn mowing or babysitting as a job, probably.
No, as a kid, actually, my father, I wanted to work a job, and in Arkansas, you can when you're 12. That's
really?
the age you can start, doing some stuff. But 14 is when you can start getting paid with a hardship license. And he made me volunteer at the Children's Museum of Arkansas when I was 12 years old for the entire summer, 40 hours a week, to prove that I was old enough to handle a full-time job.
Wow.
So yeah,
Wow.
I've been working since a pretty young age.
A long time. So you are married now, and your wife Allison,
Yes,
is it?
yes.
You've been married about a year and a half. So when I say where are you from, what would be your answer?
I would say Happy Valley, Clackamas, Oregon. That's where I consider home. Yeah.
And Allison is from
Auburn, California.
California. Yeah. Okay. So it's wonderful that you chose our neck of the woods. And you did it by Google Maps, right? Did you see that movie Lion? The Lion? It's about a young boy in India who finds his home by Google Map. After he grows up, he goes to Tasmania and he finds his home in India. So you were ahead of the curve.
I was. Yeah, no, I think we talked about that yesterday. But when I learned about Western Oregon University, a friend of mine just, if you're going to be a teacher, this is the school you have to go to.
Good.
And so I remember Googling it, and then of course you just see, Monmouth and Independence, and then just surrounded by farmland. And I'm used to being close to Portland and close to, bigger towns.
Yeah.
But when I came here, they are a small town, but it's a big community, and I just fell in love with it.
Yeah, it's a terrific place. We love it too. So you have a wonderful entree into our community now. Tell us what you're doing and
Yeah.
why
So
you enjoy it.
Yeah, so I'm obviously the new executive director for the Chamber of Commerce and Visitor Center, and so that has been just an unbelievable experience. I just finished my first kind of month. And so we've got a lot of events moving forward. We've got the 52nd Annual Community Awards Banquet on March 10th, and so I've just been really
good.
involved in getting that up and running and connecting with a lot of our members.
Have you gotten a lot of nominations?
So voting, that's a great question. Actually, voting starts today.
Okay.
And so today everyone will be able to go on and make those choices.
So what website do we go on
So
to?
that would be the Chamber website. Thank you for that. And
Sure.
that is www.miccor.org.
Yeah, good.
Yep.
Then
plug in there.
we'll vote. Sure. We have so many worthy folks for that
Oh,
award,
absolutely.
and I think I may have had a few of them on our show. So it's a wonderful community. Everybody gives back. You gave me some great sentences yesterday about why you enjoy it. You love to get up in the morning and go out and support the community, and yeah. You said it much more eloquently. Tell us what
Last
you
night,
said.
yeah. Well, I really do. I think you asked me if I enjoyed the job, and I said that it was a cheesy answer, but every day I really do get to wake up, and it is my job to support our community and to support our small businesses. And for me, small businesses really are the lifeblood. You know, companies like PCL or Yeasty Beastie or Three Legged. I mean, I could just go on and on. But it's just the customer service, and they are the community. And so waking up and being able to give back and having that be my job is phenomenal.
You kind of rely on them knowing you. It's like the old Cheers show. Everybody knows your name,
Right.
and you know their name.
Right.
I love going into Rick's and saying, "Hey, Rick."
Yeah,
You know, that
it's-
kind of a thing.
The personal connections you have in the community.
And you don't get that in a large city. So
You don't. I think that for me is one of the biggest draws here.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Do you have a goal you want to set?
Yeah. Well, just I mean, certainly for the community. So my goal is just to increase our membership and increase membership engagement. I want to just to help the community. And if I can do that, if I can watch these businesses grow and more come into our town and hire within our town, for me that'll be a great success.
So you had a meeting this morning over at PCL, and I think of all the businesses, there are usually one guy running the store or gal.
Right.
So that's probably the only time to meet is before places open or after they close.
Right, absolutely.
So-
Yeah, the Monmouth Business Association meets, the first of every month. And it is a great way to kind of connect with local leaders. And that's what, many of the benefits the Chamber offers, such as our monthly forums or monthly mixers, is a chance to network. Because so often, it's just the retail company that's missing that one marketing idea that someone else has tried. Or, everyone's kind of dealing with the same issues and they're all, part of the same club, right? And so just making those connections, I think, is certainly where the value's
very
at.
important. That is one of the purposes. You had, and probably the main purpose, while you were in school, you started a company called Genesis Marketing.
Genesis Marketing.
So you had some connection with local businesses through that.
I did. Genesis Marketing was kind of born out of necessity, just to provide for my family, but also I already had, and I kind of always have, a passion to help others and to help small businesses. And so I recognized that need and then certainly try to help them with that. But I did. I got involved, became a chamber member, saw the value in that.
Good.
And just really got involved in the community.
So I remember you saying that you have clients in Corvallis, and so do you have any local clients? And I know Allison's taken over the business to keep from that conflict of interest. But had you had some local guys or businesses?
Absolutely. So we've done some consulting work with some companies in the area. Spacing on the name right now. Is it Homegrown Oregon? Was that a dispensary that we managed? But Mark Garten
Okay.
The sheriff of Polk County. I know that was the
Okay,
same
yeah,
sentence
yeah,
there.
yeah.
But we actually handled all of his political ads. And
Oh, really?
Yeah, so we
Oh,
produced
okay.
his TV ads.
Okay,
And
good.
we've done that, and several different attorneys we've met in the area. And Hadley's Bakery is one of them.
Okay.
And Rick's Coffee.
Good.
Like that.
Before an interview, I always Google.
Right,
And
right.
there's somebody with your same name who's a baseball player with the Hops, a first baseman, I think. Works at a financial analyst in Portland, and one was for the marijuana, and I'm kind of going, no,
Right,
no,
right.
but that was you.
Right, as far as
Okay.
doing the work, yeah, we handled. We didn't discriminate if it's a small business in the area that needed
sure.
help like everyone else,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
we always just kind of focused on legal businesses. So,
Yeah, good. So you've got a super goal planned, and you're working with the community and really enjoying that. And now that you've had a whole month
a
to
whole 30 days.
reflect,
A whole 30 days.
and you've got goals going. Are you seeing that you've accomplished something in this very short period of time?
Oh, as far as absolutely. A lot of work was done in that first 30 days. Of course, anytime you're stepping in, just kind of getting everything settled. And
Yeah.
but we have some projects moving forward. We're actually reaching out to Western for internships.
Oh, good.
And so we're getting a pretty neat
Okay.
project together called what's a photojournalism project to kind of capture the heart of the community. We're going to turn it into a book called Discover My Town. And it's going to be like a nice little coffee
See,
table
now
book.
that's,
And yeah, for the
that's
community.
terrific. So it could be a
excited about that.
fundraiser. And
Exactly,
yeah.
exactly. And just a way to showcase, our beautiful environment and
Yeah.
all the different parks
Yeah.
we have, so.
So rural tourism is a buzzword now.
Absolutely.
And I'm on a committee about communication between the community and the campus. And rural tourism has come into discussion. So the bicycle tours and camping, things like that in our community. So there'll probably be a little of that along the way.
Absolutely. The chamber is actually, that's one of my jobs, is to help with tourism. I'm on
Okay.
the Polk County Tourism Alliance.
Okay.
And so part of that is just seeing how we can draw people in
Yeah.
and offer them. So we actually have the Psoriasis Foundation is going to have their cycle event here.
Oh, good.
And of course the Eclipse
Right.
is a big event this year.
Tell us a little bit about what's on the plan.
What's happening? So everything is happening
Yeah.
this summer. So August 21st, there's going to be eclipse, what's called a totality.
Yes.
So full blocking of the sun, right? And so the cities of Monmouth-Independence have both concert series. I believe Independence has Aerosmith cover band coming.
band.
And then, so not actually Aerosmith.
Yeah, yeah.
But, and Monmouth
And I
actually
think
has
Pink Floyd cover
like
band.
a Dark Side of the Moon, which I
Yeah.
think is pretty cool.
That
and
is
pretty
clever.
appropriate. So a lot of big events in the area, but we're expecting about 50,000 people in Polk County just for that event alone. So.
I know they've opened dorms
Yes,
on campus
yes.
and they're booked.
And camping grounds and just,
It's going to be quite an event. Our house is full. I've invited enough people, family members, to fill every bed and sofa in the house. So we'll be a good representation.
Absolutely.
Well, I've so much enjoyed getting to know you a little bit better, Ryan. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I've enjoyed it too.
Thanks. And we'll be right back. We're back with Rebecca Hardgrave. Rebecca is the director of the food pantry on the ASWOU campus. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and you're also a student, of course.
I am, yes.
And tell us what's your major.
So I'm majoring in anthropology and my minor is community health.
And that's a terrific combination. I can see where you can do that. What are your plans after graduation?
Well, I'm hoping to go to grad school and I'm looking at schools in Australia. My dream school is the Australian National University, which has a very good anthropology program. And
Good.
Yeah.
Good. And you chose that primarily or just incidentally because of your husband?
Well, I did look at schools in Australia because my husband is Australian and he really wants to move back home. So, I started looking at schools there, and I wanted to know what were the best schools and what had the strongest anthropology programs.
Sure. And you have a 4-year-old.
I do.
And
yes.
what's his name?
His name's Henry.
Very nice. Very nice. We have a 2, almost 3-year-old granddaughter, and she's Harriet.
Oh.
So it was like if she had been a boy, it would have
Yeah.
been Henry. Or
It's a beautiful name.
Yeah, it is. So what brought you to Western Oregon?
Well, I am a non-traditional transfer student, and I discovered that I really benefit from those relationships with professors, and being able to work closely with them is really helpful for my learning style. So Western was really attractive to me in that way. Because they can boast that they have small class sizes.
Yes, and it's true, and you get personalized service.
You do, yeah, you really do.
The ratio is 1 to 18. Is
Something,
that?
yeah.
Yeah, it's terrific. So you'll be graduating this
Next year.
Next year. Okay, so we have you for 1 more year. Great.
Yes.
Now, the first time we met, I was volunteering at the food pantry, and you came in, and we tried to assemble some shelves. It was so funny.
So sorry about that.
We ended up just kind of throwing it underneath and saying that what we've got is good enough.
Yes, and I have plans to move the extra units out of there.
Oh, do you? Or maybe we move the whole kit and caboodle. Would you tell us where the food pantry is on campus?
Yes, so the food pantry is in the Academic Services Building, and it's technically on the 2nd floor, but it really feels like the ground floor. We're in room 211, and we're right next to the Honors Department, next to the Student Enrichment Program.
Right, and so that building is on the corner of Jackson and Monmouth,
Yes.
right? Yeah, and how many people do you think run through there per week?
Ooh, per week. Well, that's a tough question. I know by looking at the stats, it can be as much as 600 a month. We're really working on, I've been tasked to do awareness this year. Not many of our students knew that we had a food pantry, and even less of the community members know that it's actually also a community food bank.
Yeah.
So, we're really working hard on letting people know.
Getting the word out.
Yeah, exactly, and generate those numbers.
Well, we've had 2 articles I've printed off from the Statesman Journal and also Itemizer Observer.
That's right.
Both were very good articles, I thought. And I was struck by what our percentage of students are who are, the term is, I'd say hungry, but food insecurity.
Yes, that's the buzzword, is food insecure.
So the percentages, when they took it in 2014, 59%.
Yes.
And now assume that it has to be higher. Costs of education have gone up, costs of living's gone up.
Right.
So I'm sure we're getting more than typical. When I was in there last week, we had oodles of canned vegetables.
Yes.
Peas, green beans, carrots, beans, lots of that. And then there's a shelf that's empty that's usually our protein shelf. So when I come in, I usually put tuna out or canned chicken. I make a Costco run and get some of that, but I'm thinking Thursday, by the time I have my shift on Thursday, most of the protein is gone.
Right. So, looking at the numbers really speak for themselves. After we sort of launched this campaign to raise awareness, we started seeing more people come in, and we really have a difficult time keeping food on the shelves. So this is still the beginning of term, and we're still kind of hammering out the details. I do a special shopping trip to Marion Polk Food Share in Salem and pick up about 200 to 300 pounds of food on top of our normal order that comes in. And like you were saying, by even Wednesday, afternoon, it's nearly gone. So that's our next aim, is how do we keep food on the shelves
Right.
long enough for people to get it.
Right, right. Well, I saw in one of the articles, Chemeketa does a maximum of 7 items.
Yeah, so I actually went to visit their pantry because, you know, I guess I'm a Chemeketa alum. And at that time I was taking a Spanish class out there. And they let students take 8 items.
8.
And community members can take 4. But, you know, you have to give them your student ID and then pick out what you want there. So
it's a little more detailed.
it is. I think they have more requirements on how you can get food, but you know, the really wonderful thing is that now it's in the student building, it's up front, you
Right.
can see it, you can access it at any time, and it's like a visual right there.
Right, right. Well, I saw huge bags of coffee. Somebody
Did you?
donated
Yes.
like a
I'm so
5 or
glad.
10-pound bag. They were huge.
I didn't see them come in. I got an email about them. They asked, do I want them? And I said, personally, I love coffee. I'm sure there's a lot of people who do.
I was thinking maybe putting them in smaller bags, but somebody got
They're
a
gone.
month's supply
Yes.
of coffee right there. And we've got a freezer and a fridge.
We do, yes.
And that has usually fresh fruits, which one of the articles was saying a student hadn't seen or eaten a fresh vegetable in like 6 years or something. It
Isn't
was,
that, it's almost tragic.
yeah, it is. I think if we have recipes that we can
Yes.
give out of some of the items we have to kind of incorporate that.
So actually, speaking to that, I have a couple of projects in the works. I've already got kind of the okay that we can use the Gentle House, but I'm also trying to
good.
connect with, I met with Sue, I'm going to meet with her again from the Senior Center here in Monmouth.
Good.
And hopefully we can organize like a cooking class or school. I really want to get education out there because we do have some
Good.
items that are a little more inaccessible. And I want to kind of break those barriers down and teach people how to use those things that are maybe a little intimidating.
That's a great idea. You had asked me if I had ever cooked with soy curls.
Soy curls, they're my product of like the week.
Okay,
Yes.
tell me
Yes.
what would you do with soy curls?
All right, so soy curls we have in abundance, and that's hence the product of the week. So they are like a dried soy protein. It's a shelf-stable protein, and to use them, you would reconstitute them. They're great for vegetarians and vegans. You can substitute them, like I say, if you wanted to make tacos, you could use that as a taco meat after you reconstitute them. Or, you know, if you're making a soup or stew and you wanted to add some protein to it, you would just put them in directly without having to, you know,
Okay.
boil them first.
Okay, and have you eaten them? Have you
I have a bag at home that I'm going to experiment with. I have
Okay.
a picky 4-year-old, so he actually really loves tofu, so I'm thinking that
Oh,
it would
good.
be-
He probably
Yeah.
would.
Yeah.
Kind of sneak it in there. It's
Yeah.
it's kind of flavorless, takes on the
Yes,
flavor
exactly.
of what else it's cooking with. So chili is supposed to be good
Yes,
with that.
yes.
And maybe I'm thinking of tofu. But when I first started, there were bags of beans. And there were so many bags of beans, I never thought we'd go through them, you know, the variety beans. So I took one home and cooked it up, and I started throwing in this and that, you know, and I brought it for sharing to say, hey, this isn't so bad. You can, you know, what can you do with this? But I added hamburger, which wasn't a good idea because there are going to be people who don't have that protein. So there we
Right,
go, the
right.
soy curls.
Right.
Yes. Okay, we'll try that. That sounds good. So you have plans to have cooking classes and get the word out. I remember hearing that there are Tinkle
Times.
Tinkle Times. Tell me
Yes.
about that.
Well, Tinkle Times is not my project, but it is part of ASWOU. The graphic designer puts together a calendar of events, and I think it's a very clever idea.
Very.
They put them inside the restroom stalls, figuring that people probably will look at them when they're using the restroom.
So the women, of course, more than the men, but
Yes, probably.
But yeah, I think it's a fabulous idea. That's a great way to get the word out.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. So I hope, and tell me the hours. What are our hours?
So I should mention the assistant director, Tiffany Bowles.
Tiffany?
She handles all all of the volunteer coordinating, which is a full-time job. She only gets 10 hours a week, however, so she's very, very busy. She and I are working really hard on having the pantry be open from 8 to 5 every term, which is a really big improvement. Part of the issue is, we are completely dependent on our volunteers, and without them, our doors aren't open. So the more volunteers that we have, the better, and we want our pantry to be accessible.
Well, I know last year, I think the statistics was you had 90 volunteers last term.
Yeah.
This term, is it a little less, a little more?
I think the numbers will be about the same. We always get a lot of interest in the first couple of weeks when teachers announce that they are going to have class projects and you need to have some volunteer hours. So I know that Tiffany's really busy right now trying to coordinate and getting everybody on board.
Okay.
But the time that we really need volunteers is towards the end of term when people are in finals or dead week, or breaks.
Sure.
We're open winter, spring, and summer break, so we always need people to help us.
Okay, that's good to know. Well, count me in, except if it's a snow day.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we adhere to all of the campus closures, yeah.
Which makes sense. We have the weather report for tomorrow is supposed to be snow, and fingers crossed we won't have that issue.
I saw
again.
that.
Yeah, let's ignore it and hope it goes away. Well, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
I appreciate you coming on, and it's great to hear a little bit more about the food pantry.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll be right back. Weren't our guests wonderful? This is such a fabulous community, and now you see again why. You can see our show on the YouTube Winnipeg channel, on MyNet, channel 718, and of course our Facebook page, Polk Salad, a bounty of conversation. Until next time, we'll see you around town.